The Napa Valley air was crisp, perfect for my father's 70th birthday. I'd hoped this time would be different. My daughter, Sophia, squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with the vineyard's grandeur. Then I saw it. My mother, Karen, caught Sophia's hopeful glance at a passing waiter. "There's bread on the table," she said, her voice dripping with dismissal. "You can snack on that." Sophia's face fell. Seconds later, the same waiter presented a sizzling $250 tomahawk steak to my sister, Megan, and her husband, Ian. Karen beamed at them, a picture of maternal pride. That was it. The final straw in a lifetime of being the second-choice daughter. The reliable support system they only noticed when they needed something. Years of swallowing insults, funding my sister's influencer lifestyle, and watching my own child be treated as an afterthought. It all fractured in that moment. When the waiter returned, I stood up. My voice was calm, steady. "My daughter will have the pan-seared scallops with risotto, and a sparkling cider." I met my mother's glare without flinching. "And please move the entire bill to my mother's tab." A shocked silence fell over the table. Megan froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. The bill? I knew. It was already north of $2,000. "What are you doing?" Jessica Karen hissed, her face pale with fury. I smiled. A cold, unfamiliar feeling. "And one more thing. Megan, the $1,500 a month I send you for your artist loft, consider this your 30-day notice. It stops now." I saw the panic flash in my sister's eyes before it was replaced by her usual entitlement. My father, Michael, just watched, his expression unreadable. I took Sophia's hand. Her scallops arrived, and the waiter placed them before her with a gentle smile. She looked up at me. A real, genuine smile for the first time all day. I didn't need to stay and watch the fallout. The scene was already set. We walked out of the winery, leaving the bill, the steak, and 20 years of resentment behind us. Outside, Sophia looked up at me, her small hand tight in mine. "Are we in trouble?" "Mommy?" she asked. I knelt down, looking into her eyes. "No, sweetheart," I said, the words feeling truer than anything I'd said in years. "We're free." Through the large glass window, I could see my mother's furious face, her mouth moving in a silent tirade. They could have their dinner. I'd had enough of swallowing mine. Sleep wouldn't come. Back at home, the adrenaline from the winery still coursed through me. My mind, trained for logistics and risk assessment, needed an outlet. So at 2 a.m, I opened my laptop. I created a new spreadsheet, naming it the Scapegoat's Ledger. As a project manager, I lived in spreadsheets. They brought order to chaos, clarity to complex problems. This felt no different. I started with the financials. A column for monthly support to Megan. $1,500 a month for the last 3 years. $54,000. I typed in the number and felt a jolt. Then came the emergency loans that were never repaid. The $5,000 for Ryan's car deposit. The $2,000 for their essential vacation to Bali. I added columns for things harder to quantify, but just as real. Unpaid babysitting hours. I typed, calculating the weekend nights I'd given up so Megan could attend gallery openings. At a conservative $20 an hour, it was over $12,000. I added a line item for missed vacations. Remembering the trip Matthew and I canceled because my mom insisted I was the only one who could help Megan move. Again, the emotional costs were next. Public humiliations. Career achievements. Ignored. Gaslighting incidents. I couldn't assign a dollar value to those. But seeing them listed, itemized like project deliverables, was validating. The numbers climbed, easily tipping into 6 figures. It wasn't just money. It was a quantified account of my own erasure. My phone buzzed. It was my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, the family's no-nonsense truth-teller. "I heard there was a fireworks show in Napa tonight," she said. Without preamble, I explained everything, the bread comment, the steak, cutting Megan off, walking out. She was silent for a moment. "Good," she finally said, her voice firm. It's about damn time. Your mother has been propping Megan up on your back since you were kids. Remember when you won the state science fair and she left the award ceremony early to take Megan to a concert? It's the same story. Just with bigger price tags. Her words were a balm, extinguishing the last flicker of doubt. She saw it. She had always seen it. You did the right thing. Jessica, don't you dare back down. We hung up, and I stared at the ledger on my screen. It wasn't a tool for revenge. It was my Declaration of Independence. Written in rows, columns, and cold, hard numbers. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. Not a polite knock, but a series of sharp, insiste presse. I looked through the peephole. It was Karen and Megan, their faces set like stone. I opened the door, keeping my body positioned to block their entry. They tried to push past me anyway. We need to talk, Karen announced, her voice tight with authority. No, I said, my tone flat. We don't. Megan scoffed from behind her. You can't just blow up the family and then hide. Jessica, you owe me an apology. And you owe me my rent money. Her sense of entitlement was breathtaking. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just stood there. My expression neutral. I remembered an article I'd read about dealing with narcissists, the gray rock method. Make yourself as boring and unresponsive as a gray rock. No drama. No emotion. Nothing for them to feed on. There is nothing to discuss. I repeated. My voice, a monotone. My calmness seemed to enrage them more than any argument could have. After everything I've done for you, Karen started, her voice rising. You were always such a difficult, ungrateful chilled. I just looked at her, blinking slowly. I didn't defend myself. I didn't engage. You are being ridiculous. Megan snapped, crossing her arms. You're punishing me because you're jealous. You always have been. I gave a slight, non committal shrug. It was like pouring water on a grease fire. Their rage flared, unable to find purchase. My husband, Matthew, appeared in the hallway behind me, a silent pillar of support. He didn't say a word, just stood there, letting them know I wasn't alone. Karen tried a different tactic, her voice shifting to a manipulative quiver. You're tearing this family apart. Your father is devastated. Okay, I said, offering nothing more. The single, boring word hung in the air, a wall they couldn't penetrate. They were starving for a reaction, for tears, for a fight. And I was giving them nothing. They were used to pulling my strings, and I had cut them. Frustration boiled over. Fine, Karen shrieked, her face red. You want to play this game. You have no idea what you've just started. Megan glared at me. You will regret this, she vowed. They stormed back to their car, slamming the doors. I closed my front door, the click of the lock echoing in the quiet house. Matthew put his arm around me. Wow, he said, a note of awe in his voice. I have never seen them run out of steam like that. You are incredible. I leaned against him, not triumphant, but resolved. I hadn't won a battle. I had simply refused to fight. My mother and sister made good on their threat. The call came on a Monday morning from Sophia's school. An anonymous report had been filed with Child Protective Services. The words hung in the air. Cold and venomous allegations of neglect. My stomach dropped, but just for a second. Then, the project manager in me took over. The shock was immediately replaced by a cold, methodical clarity. I knew exactly who was responsible. I hung up the phone and looked at Matthew. This is war, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. He nodded, his face grim. Panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. This was a project, and I would manage it to a successful outcome. I didn't call them. I didn't scream or cry. I started documenting. I opened my laptop and created a new file, a subfolder to the scapegoat's ledger. I went through my house, taking time-stamped photos with my phone. The refrigerator, fully stocked with fresh vegetables, milk, and healthy snacks. Sophia's bedroom, clean and organized, her artwork taped to the walls. The pantry, filled with staples. I photographed her bookshelf, crammed with books, and the bin of neatly organized craft supplies. Next, I compiled digital documents. Sophia's latest report card. All A's and B's. A glowing letter from her piano teacher. Her perfect attendance record. A printout of her immunization records from the pediatrician's office, showing she was up to date on every checkup. I saved photos from our recent weekend trip to the Science Museum. Sophia grinning from ear to ear. I was building a fortress of facts. An irrefutable case for our stable, loving home. When the two social workers arrived that afternoon, I was ready. I greeted them calmly and invited them in. They were professional, their expressions unreadable. But I could see them taking everything in. The clean house. The smell of freshly baked cookies I'd made with Sophia the night before. The relaxed atmosphere. They spoke with Sophia alone in her room, and I could hear her cheerful chatter about her friends and her soccer team. They inspected the kitchen and the pantry. They reviewed the documents I had organized in a neat binder for them. After about an hour, one of them looked at me, a hint of apology in her eyes. Everything seems to be perfectly in order here. Mrs. Harris, it's clear your daughter is very well cared for. The case was closed on the spot. Labeled unfounded. Relief washed over me. But it was quickly followed by something harder. Steel. They had tried to use my own child as a weapon against me. They had weaponized a system designed to protect vulnerable children to harass and intimidate me. This wasn't just a family squabble anymore. They had crossed a moral and legal line. Reconciliation was no longer an option. This was about permanent, unbreakable boundaries. After the CPS incident, I knew I needed to escalate my defense. I hired a lawyer who specialized in family law and harassment. Together, we drafted formal cease and desist letters, legally ordering Karen and Megan to stop all contact. We sent them via certified mail. A clear signal that this was no longer a personal dispute. The silence that followed was deafening. For a week, there was nothing. No angry calls. No manipulative texts. Then, something completely unexpected happened. A notification popped up on my phone from Zelle. A transfer of $5,000. The sender was Ryan, Megan's husband. The note attached was cryptic. This is half of what she owes you. I'm done. I stared at the screen, baffled. Before I could even process it, an email from him landed in my inbox. The subject line was just one word: evidence. The body of the email contained only a link to a password-protected folder, and a simple password. My heart hammered as I clicked the link and entered the code. The folder opened, revealing an arsenal. It was a collection of scanned documents and screenshots. Megan's real credit card statements, while she had been crying poverty to me, claiming she couldn't afford groceries. She'd been spending thousands on designer bags, spa weekends, and lavish dinners. There were receipts from luxury boutiques, flight confirmations for solo inspiration trips, and bank statements showing a steady income from her online brand that she had always claimed was just a hobby. Ryan had included everything. He had been quietly documenting her lies for months. It turned out my monthly $1,500 wasn't for rent on her loft. It was her personal slush fund for a life she was living behind his back, funded by my labor. He was tired of her financial deception, tired of propping up her fraudulent influencer facade. He was done being a co-conspirator. The final document was a short, signed note from him. He stated that he was filing for divorce and would testify to Megan's long-term pattern of financial fraud if needed. He had become a turncoat, and in doing so, he had handed me the ultimate weapon. It was irrefutable. Undeniable proof. The scapegoat's ledger had been my truth. This was everyone else's. I sat back, the weight of the evidence settling in. My sister wasn't just entitled, she was a fraud. My mother wasn't just a narcissist, she was her enabler. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. This was about a calculated, long-term con. And I finally had everything I needed to end it, cornered and losing their grip. Karen and Megan made one last desperate move. They filed a frivolous lawsuit for grandparent visitation rights. It was a classic, narcissistic gambit, using the legal system to force contact and inflict emotional and financial pain. But they underestimated me. They still saw the quiet, accommodating daughter, not the methodical project manager who had spent months preparing for this exact moment. My lawyer just smiled when I forwarded her the petition. They have no idea what they're walking into, she said. Our response was swift and overwhelming. We filed a motion to dismiss, attaching a mountain of evidence that made their claims look utterly delusional. Exhibit A was the scapegoat's ledger, detailing the years of financial exploitation. Exhibit B was the official, cleared report from Child Protective Services, proving their allegations of neglect were malicious lies. Exhibit C was the entire evidence locker from Ryan, including his sworn statement and Megan's damning credit card statements, highlighting her character and deceit. But the final, decisive blow came from an unexpected source. My lawyer included a sworn affidavit from my father, Michael. After seeing the hard evidence I had compiled, he had finally, unequivocally, chosen aside. His statement was simple and powerful. He would not support their lawsuit. He did not believe I was an unfit mother, and he respected my decision to set boundaries. Faced with an avalanche of documented proof and abandoned by my father, their case crumbled. Before it ever reached a judge, their lawyer called ours and formally withdrew the petition. It was over. Checkmate. Months later, the silence is a peaceful hum. Matthew, Sophia, and I are on vacation. A real one. Somewhere with sandy beaches and no cell service. The updates have trickled in through the grapevine. Megan is divorced. Ryan followed through. And without my money or his, her influencer lifestyle collapsed. She's struggling, working a retail job to make ends meet. Karen is socially isolated. A hard one. Beautifully quiet peace, built on the foundation of unbreakable boundaries, 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 unbreakable boundaries,